Hey Brent.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Very good. Just 2 seconds here.
Oh,
There we go.
there we go. How's your day going?
Pretty good. Busy.
Yeah. I feel like for you guys it's nonstop right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I do administration work in the morning, and then
Then you deal with your campaign.
I go outdoor knocking.
Even in the rain and snow?
Yep. Depends on how not so nice it is, though, right?
This weekend.
Yeah, this weekend's not supposed to be very good. I have a renovation job I got to do for someone, so.
Okay, so what do you do like other than obviously this? What's your full-time career or your career before this?
I've done a few things. I started off as a journeyman millwright.
Nice. Yeah.
So I worked at a very large pulp and paper mill on the island.
Yeah.
Down River. And I got my journeyman ticket there and moved to Alberta in 97.
What brought you here?
Job.
Yeah.
I was, the mill I was working at was on strike for 6 months. The wife of the day, we said, hey, you want to move? And I said, yep, I'm good. And I had a job in about 2 days.
How long have you been living in your area now? Or since you moved, have you lived in that area?
I lived up north
Yep.
for about 2.5 years, 15 years in Edmonton.
Nice.
And then in 2015, my wife and I, we moved down here.
Oh, beautiful. And now you're running.
Now I'm cunning.
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. You know, I thought someone has to do something because there's no actual platform out there. And
Yeah.
might as well.
I think it's great.
It's the entrepreneur in us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, the only way to I think messages got to get out, right?
yeah.
And people don't, there's a lot at stake with this election.
There's a lot of what? Sorry?
At stake.
Oh, yes. Huge.
And more than what people think.
100%.
You
What
know,
are some of the things that you believe that are at stake?
Pardon me?
What are some of the things that you believe that are at stake?
I think that over the last 10 years, and for me, the last four, where I paid more attention to it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just been a constant tax and spend, and very, very limited amount of input from residents. So what I see personally and from professionally as well is that I'll call it the blue building because it's just easier, is City Hall, the blue building, basically runs the show here. And it's not the politicians so much. And I think it's getting very, very like a dictatorship. And so what happens with the process that happens in Calgary for people is City Hall creates an idea, policy, has a number to it. They give it to council. And there's quite a few councillors that are absorbed in the politicals or the bureaucracy in City Hall. And they say, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. We're going to spend $3 million to change 40-kilometer-an-hour signs or whatever, right? And then they tell the public, who are the ones that are actually paying the bill. And I find that that's completely backwards. In a democratic society, what happens is the resident or taxpayer or constituent has some concerns, and the councillor would be me, and I would find out what everyone wanted, and then reach out again and the priority part, and refine it and go to City Hall and say, so what, some technical things, and then go into council, pass a motion, and tell City Hall what to do. And from a democratic perspective.
Why are we seeing this happen the other way around?
Oh God.
And how is this being allowed? Let's just say that.
I think a lot of people campaign to get elected, And I have to say that getting elected is not an easy job, and anyone that gets elected, I congratulate them, because it's not an easy thing to do, and it's a brutal job, especially now. However, a lot of people get elected on hopes and dreams, and yeah, it's a cliche, but it's true. So when it comes down to doing the job, they find that they're not really versed on the economic component of it. So some people are planners. Now, planning is good. I'm a planner. And so they focus all their time in planning on policy. And they create policy, not understanding that every policy has an economic effect. And so what happens? So now they created this policy, and someone has a question about it. Well, and they say, well, the policy says this. Well, they just created it so that they could hide behind it. Yeah, but when you start talking about economically and how that affects the average taxpayer, and believe me, I've talked to a lot of them, it's the effect is horrible. I mean, let's look at the 40-kilometer-hour sign thing. That's a conversation. I was elected in the early 90s in BC, and that conversation was in the 80s. It's safety, and I have 3 kids and 6 grandkids, so safety is kind of important to me. So is the environment. However, if you cannot enforce it, and most of the people actually, in my street, if you're going 40, you're an idiot. And southern streets, you can't even go 40 or 30 or whatever. So why do you need to go in and create a policy that says that we're going to do this and we're just going to have a $2.3 or $3 million price tag on it in a time of recession? This is the other kicker of it. And when they do, so they did this thing, then they put 40-kilometer or 50-kilometer signs up. To what avail? The population didn't want it.
Who's gaining by doing this?
Egos. I really don't see how it's advantageous for anyone else except for now everyone has beliefs, and you can't fault people for that, because a good conversation, a belief is something to start with, right? But if the majority of the population has a belief that it's not a good idea, and if you actually took the time and talked to them, which didn't happen, you would find out that the basic population thinks it's a waste of money. And I've been to, oh good Lord, well over 25,000 doors over the last year.
Wow.
And I've talked to thousands of people. And when that topic was hot, I would say that 90% of the people thought it was a waste of money. Even people that were leaning in different directions, whatever, right?
I interviewed actually another Ward 3 candidate, Jasmine Mayan.
Oh, yeah.
She believes that we should be increasing our taxes. What are your thoughts on that? Way to stir shit up, right?
I think that she's way off base. Small business are the fabric of everything, of a whole society. And the saying where they say if you eventually run out of everybody else's money, I think that's the world that she lives in. I don't think that she's ran a business of any sort, or managed a budget of any sort other than her home budget.
Your competitor here says that she has a poli-sci degree, and people that think they can run just because they own a business or know business don't understand politics. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a journeyman millwright. A welder. I can fix just about anything, build just about anything. I'm a pretty handy guy, and I think with my hands. Experience tells me that small business is essential. Business is essential. If you do not have business and revenue producing jobs, every bureaucrat wouldn't have a job, because every single bureaucratic job is funded by industry, every one of them. And a person can have all the degrees in their world. I'm a blue collar guy. I've taken, tons of courses on all sorts of different things, right?
Just like many of my friends and hardworking Calgarians, pipe fitters, welders, that's what we're built on here in Alberta.
Yeah, it's a fabric of it all, right? And so what happens, and the provincial government is fighting this, Demetrius is fighting this one a bit as well, to bring up the value of a trade ticket. So, yeah, she has her master's in psychology. I have what they call a
PhD in life?
Yes, I had a lot of experience, and they call me a practical engineer, a doctorate in practicality, school of hard knocks. I've seen it, been in there, done it, understand it, suffered from it, and come out on the other side, understanding the various components of what makes a good community, how to make a good decisions, and the overall value of just being true to yourself, right?
And real.
Pardon?
And real. I don't, talking to you right now, you're not talking like a typical politician would. You're talking like somebody that would be your neighbor, somebody you can relate to, somebody that also shares the same frustrations like many Calgarians do in your community.
Yeah, and I am. I'm a wrench. I like it, but I've been living in a white collar world for a long time, and I've been functioning quite well in it. Mm-hmm. And I've ran a lot of companies up to, they had budgets about $20 million, a few of them, and manufacturing industry. That's what I've been, and service. I ran a service department for the Western Hemisphere in Russia a long time ago, and created the first ever schedules on customers and servicing them and getting equipment there. And I could go on about that one, but basically turned it around. It went from zero or $100,000 a year to $850,000 in 8 months, just by talking with people and scheduling and planning. And I didn't need a university degree to do that. I needed determination, understanding, and the willingness to work my butt off. And I have, like I say, I have 3 kids, and each one of them have this work ethic. I'm just, I don't really, makes no difference where I'm in front of a camera, because I'm quite happy and behind a camera.
A pretty content guy.
I'm happy. I'm comfortable in my own skin. Let's just put it that way.
I love that.
I've done so many things. I mean, I've traveled around the world. I think I've been to every corner. I understand different nationalities, different countries, all the little problems that people think they have. I've seen them in different countries. I've been disrespected in different countries. I understand it. I'm a short white guy. I can't do anything about that.
It's who we are, right? Whatever we are is who we are. Yeah, it is what we are. It's who we are, I think. And
yeah, exactly. That's what I talk to people at. And I'm just, I don't know, I put my pants on the same way, just like everybody else does. 100%. And I've hired and fired everybody.
Brent, I have a question for you. Your competitor that I have interviewed in Ward 3 believes that, and she has no problem in saying this, there should be an increase in property taxes, and she's proud to say that we should increase property taxes.
Taxes are part of life. So,
100%.
And I don't think we can get around that. But we need to do one simple thing before we do that, is what does it actually cost you to do what you want to do. So look at a household. You have one car, you make X amount of dollars. And I go like, well, I'd really like to have another car. So now you buy 5 cars. And so now you've broken the budget, and you got to find some way of paying for it. So you rob, steal, or whatever. In government, they have the ability to go and tax you without having to talk to you. And my approach is more on the spending aspect. I have a consulting business that I work with companies that are some are dysfunctional, some are their margins aren't good enough, so they're failing. They either go bankrupt or they hire someone to change things around. So I do this for a living, and I'm quite comfortable working through bureaucracies, and I know how they function, and I am actually quite persuasive in the backside and helping bureaucrats understand the value of change, and they understand the value of just better etiquette of decision making.
Brent, do you believe that the city should push, or city council should push, the city guide book this year or this time around, or wait till there's the new people that are elected and then look it over, review it one more time?
I think it needs to be pushed off for a bit. It was around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I mean, I didn't hear about it. But I wasn't in Miss Gondek's field of influence, so I never heard anything. And I think that a guidebook is always good. I don't think you can go wrong, because I think as an efficiency guide, process guides, things to create direction are very helpful. But ones that are statutory and dictatorial-like, I guess we'll say, only serve one side, and that's the side that gets to make the decisions. And in this case, it ends up being in the planning department, and it moves it away from neighborhoods, and it moves it away from the politicians' ability to go and hear their neighborhood and how upset they are, and bring that forward to council and administration to make change. So if it wasn't a statutory document, I probably would be more comfortable with it. But this is one of those ones, again, where people in the planning area and councillors that are really planning oriented, great policy in the backside to tell you what you're going to do without involving you in that conversation. This is a pure example of that.
I mean, we saw that just recently, obviously on a provincial level, but with the coal pits, open coal mines.
Yeah.
It was like right under our nose. We're like, wait, what are you doing? You sold it to who? Australia?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm not in favor of cutting tops of mountains off. I can tell you that. I'm a hiker, skier. I'm a ex-triathlete. Whatever.
That was disappointing.
I love the outdoors, and I'm from BC, so I'm a bit green. But I also understand that you need to pay the bills. And from my travels, I've found and come across people that are bawling their eyes out because they're losing their house, don't know how they're going to pay their taxes. They're losing everything. They're living seniors and stuff that can no longer afford houses, and the list goes on. And I find that deplorable when that's going on in your city. Then you want to go and spend frivolous money after frivolous money. I think it's very silly, and I think what's going on over the last while is the city spent so much money they didn't even know what it cost to operate it. As an operations guy, and when I see, I'm a bit of a cost accountant as well because I like to track stuff, and numbers are important to me. Is that when your taxes go up and your services go down, that there's a spending problem. And like your household, if you can only afford one car, you have one car. If you have 2 cars, you have to maintain them. It's more expensive. Don't have the money, can't do it. So the city is in the same boat. And anyone that thinks that you just keep on jacking taxes up, that's the solution, has never actually worked in a business or an industry that actually had to go and make tough decisions, or have been in a position that they had to make real tough decisions.
What are some things you'll do if you are chosen as councillor of Ward 3 in regards to helping small businesses and entrepreneurs?
Um, industry, a lot of people complain that industry gets handouts. And in some way, I'm comfortable with that, with saying that, because a lot of times they do, they should. And now we have lost 30% of our businesses, or 40 or something like that. I don't know.
Is it that high in Calgary now? Holy shit.
Well, the vacancy rate downtown, so
okay.
It's 30%, right? So 30, 40%. So that number is still going to be in there somewhere.
Do we have a number yet for small business over the last year? That would be really cool to see.
That I don't know. I'd have to research that one.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. Holy.
So anyway, so small business needs a help. And how do they do? This is the tough part, right? I think the only way we're going to do it, and the first step is to create a culture of attraction. We need to attract businesses here. We need to spend some more time, energy, money in economic development, tourism, Calgary, to say, look, here we are. We are a friendly city. We are getting our red tape in line, which is a part of this whole conversation, and we're getting our costs under control, so you can come in here and feel comfortable that we're not going to tax you to death, because we can. And because what's happening now is people are moving out of the city, and businesses as well, because they're being taxed to death and they're getting really ticked. And I can say that because I've been to a lot of houses, and I've heard this very thing, right? I've been doing a survey for the last year, and survey says it's spending.
What are your thoughts on mental health and addiction?
Health has really taken a beating this last bit, and this whole COVID thing has thrown it in the loop. And I mean, I have my own issues sometimes where, self-worth or what have you. I mean, I don't know anyone that doesn't, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And sometimes you need to talk to people, and that option needs to be out there, right? And if it's not, we need to make sure it is there. And drug addiction,
drug substance addiction,
yeah. It's tough because people make choices to hide sometimes, and that's usually what that is, right? And unfortunately, they go too far, and now they're in trouble.
Well, it's a band-aid for pain or trauma.
And so there needs to be help out there. I don't necessarily agree in giving someone a needle to go put in their arm in some place, because I think there's diabetics out there that can't afford their own injections, and they can't go do that in a safe place or even get the access to it. So there needs to be an understanding there as well. I'm not saying one or the other, but I think there needs to be a realization. But I'm in favor, like a methadone type of thing, that helps a person move off. But a person has to want to too, right? And there needs to be a support service in the backside that people can go to help them in times of trouble. Because, addiction and stuff, a lot of people don't want to be there. It just happens. And sometimes the weirdest people you would find are having this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
the weirdest people are sometimes the most beautiful people that are struggling through this.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, my favorite actor is, oh, good Lord, Mork and Mindy.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Of all the actors ever, he's my favorite. And he committed suicide, right? And same as Kurt Cobain, one of my people I like to listen to, Nirvana. He was worthy, right? That was his words. And so people have this thing and they need help, and we need to give it to them as a society.
Brent, we're all human beings.
For everybody.
You've struggled before through self-worth and fear, anxiety. It's a human thing that sometimes we suppress or hide under to be tough or strong. And I think it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to speak up your problems. Yeah. There's no shame in it. how did you find a way to open up and be okay within your own skin? Because that is a journey itself.
I have a few years behind me, so I've had a long time to do it. A long time ago, I like race cars. I built a race car, the 10-second quarter-mile race car, Mustang, what have you. It was enjoyable. And actually, I forgot the question.
Oh, I was going to ask is, how did you get over certain...
Oh, okay, yeah. So I embedded myself into things that I like.
Yeah.
So I built cars, and it really helped me understand some of my abilities, and I learned new ones. I ran a ton of organizations over my years, and every community I've been into, and it taught me some leadership skills, accounting skills, and it kept my brain busy. And then my career is, I've done this for so long. And so when I look at my kids and how to help them, and where you just need, a person needs to be there, but they have to work hard and understand that they are who they are, and listen to other people, because other people see what's going on as well, right? I used to race. I was a triathlete and used to run a lot. And actually, it was not bad. And so I would engage myself in types of activities like that. So for young kids, it's sports and culture and music instruments and all this kind of thing to keep a brain busy. Because when a brain's not busy, it does stupid things. So I'm a huge proponent of family and kids activities. Because of health, the family unit's breaking down. And it has to do with because government, in a lot of ways, is polarizing society. Are you left or right? Oh, you can't be in the middle. Oh, you offended me because you said something I don't like. Well, you said something be me because I didn't like what you said. So let's get over it and move on and have a good conversation about how we can deal with this together.
Mm-hmm. You know how you and I are talking right now? Can we have conversations openly like this in council without bashing one another and having ego on top of one another and who's got the biggest, in the room?
Oh man, I like to think that you can, and it's always my goal to do so, and I'm successful, but I'm also not afraid to calling someone out when they're politely, but I don't attack the person. I attack the problem. So when you attack the person, they take offense to it, and I'm no different. So you got to look at the problem at hand and be able to have the discussion with someone that they may not agree with what you're saying. So I also feel that if you can't argue with the other person's point, then you shouldn't be arguing your own, because then you'll just have a one-sided view on things, right? So
the other question, and I'll edit this because this is not live, so I'll edit all of this to make it flow.
Yeah.
My other question to you, Brent, is there a way to end homelessness? And if not, what are we doing with all this money that we give to these organizations to end it? There's 1,600 people, give or take, that are homeless in our city. We can't get them off the streets with all this millions of dollars each year we put out there?
It comes down to financial priorities. So if the local government wants to go and spend $3 million on signs instead of $3 million on places for homeless people to live, it's a choice, right? And so it comes down to choices, and they have to. Homeless, you're never going to get away from it, and right now, because the economic situation is so poor, it's forcing people to lose their houses and it forces them on the street. And so what do you do with that? You need to attract businesses, small businesses and large, to go and employ people to gain their self-worth again. Because there's a lot of people
when they keep shutting us down.
Say that again?
How can we employ people when, the government, obviously the provincial government, shutting us down again? We can't keep moving.
First of all, I'll I'll say COVID is no one's fault. So it is what it is. And so we need to do our part.
No.
Do I fully believe in masks now? I don't know. I'm kind of mixing the whole thing. I've talked to lots of people. However, if Costco can be open, so can Mary's boutique. Under the same rules, and business needs to be up and running, because who's paying the bills? The government can only pay the bill for so long. And you look federally, it's like $1.4 trillion. You have a federal government that just thinks money solves problems. Yeah. And from an industrial perspective, who in an efficiency side, and all the facilities I've ran, money didn't solve the problem. Mm-hmm. You know, it's about making people's lives easier and listen to what's going on. And you need a business, and you need to work. And people want to work. Even the people that don't want to. They know that to have this here, to buy milk for my house, you got to work. Mm-hmm. Unless you have a trust fund. But I mean, I don't have one of those, so I got to work. You know, in 2015, the oil industry crashed myself, and a whole bunch of VPs got axed or bought out, or whatever you want to call it. And now I'm overaged, overqualified, and expensive.
What do you think about our city's art?
Parks?
Expenditure on art.
I think blue rings and rusty pylons are a waste of money. And I like pictures and murals and things that are attractive and tasteful, like the Dove one downtown, right?
But those are local artists that made those murals. The ones that you're talking about, the blue ring and that rusty pylons and those iron rods sticking out, those were not even Canadian artists, not even Albertans. I know they're trying to put Calgary on a global scale, but you're not worried about your own backyard. You're not worried about your own people. If you spend money here, you know, you can do, it'll be spent back.
Yeah, I find that's the short-sightedness on government's behalf. If you do any of these kinds of things, they need to be locally grown. And if you don't do them locally grown, you should quit your job as a politician. And I feel quite strongly about that. There are people around Alberta that could have done all that stuff. All of it. I know the blue ring there. I built all sorts of different things. I mean, I could weld it together for them. Absolutely. And mounted it.
We do a Ward 3 councillors debate. Would you ever be interested in doing it?
Always.
What is something that you could tell your community today in Calgary as to why they should choose you to be the next Ward 3 councillor?
What I bring to the table is a high level of practicality and experience in management leadership. I've been in council before. It's a smaller community, but the process is the same. A bureaucracy is a bureaucracy. It either has 10 departments or one department. So you could look in where I was at. We had one department. Here, Edmonton or Calgary, we've got 10 departments. Same thing. It moves slower. The process is the same. Business is the same. All of it. That's as a mechanic, that's where I'm at. And so, experience-wise in management and leadership, I've ran a lot of departments and companies successfully, and every one of them I've been able to go and lower the costs and increase productivity. Every single one, faithfully. And I understand numbers, and I'm not one of those ones that's going to be all flashy and offer you hopes and dreams. But I will tell you this, that over the next 4 years, we will get our costs under control. City Hall will be trimmer. Without a bunch of grumpy people, because culture is the very first thing you deal with. And the culture of downtown right now is not conducive to productivity. And if we adjust the culture, in a form of collaboration, cooperation, understanding, and respect, things happen. Really good things happen, and people who have not managed anything of significance would have trouble seeing this because you have to live it. But spending is the biggest one, and getting some jobs, and we need to create an environment. And where I'm at and how I work is I can create units that can create an environment that is attracting businesses and not deterring them. You know.
And Brent, why is this such an important election for Calgarians?
I think we're going down a path that the majority of Calgarians don't want to go down. They find that government's getting big, they're getting selfish, they're being dictators. Budgets are getting overgrown. Bureaucracies are telling everyone how they're going to run. I think we need to have a mayor and councillors who have some business acumen, as well as some human reality and experience, so that you take in all accounts. And these two things here, the side of our heads, are the biggest tools they got, and they're not used enough. And my management style is one of collaboration. And I've talked before about people with BS collaboration, and they're micromanagers or managers or people who just want to get their own way. I don't work well in those environments. And I always tell anyone the same thing. That's why I'm saying it now. So from a collaborative environment where a person actually has the ability to go and voice their opinion without being shut down, which happens in the ward right now, changes the philosophy and changes the culture. And so mine is to take all the community associations and have them play a better role. I know that Coventry, Northern Hills, they need a building for themselves, but they want to put some shops in it, and doesn't abide with the code. Mine is BS with that. Make it work and get a facility in there and get some meeting rooms so people can actually go somewhere to do things.
That's the business mindset. It can happen. If you put your mind to it, you can make it work. Find the way.
I'm under the philosophy that everything always works out. And in my life, I've had my things through the hard knocks, school of hard knocks, but it always works out somewhere. It always comes back to being good. And if the person keeps that mindset, it just opens up, right?
Well, you keep yourself accountable. And I think that's what we need to see moving forward in the 2021 City Council, is to have accountability, to have things follow through and go through. You know, we've seen this with the arena. We've seen this from the Green Line. Just money just spent everywhere and no projects getting completed.
That's because they don't know how to start them. And one of the biggest problems in industry and in business in general, a lot of people can start a lot of things, but not very many people can finish them. And my strongest thing that I ever done, and what people say all the time, it's a difficult job. If we want to get it out of here on time and get it done, talk to Brent. Perfect. In every business I've ever run, because I do that. I know how to maneuver around. I have a lot of understanding about a lot of different things, and that attribute works for me.
Thank you so much for your time today, Brent.
No, my pleasure.